Alrighty, here we are. This is a tutorial. We're going to do pose to pose in Flash. So earlier I've collected some images I might need, so I'm going to do that pose of Spider-Man, jumping to that pose of a girl. So they're my extremes, my keys, and I'm going to use John Jones as my breakdown shot. So I got 3 images. Okay, so first of all I need to open Flash. Flash is open. Alright, click Action Script 3.0. Okay, now I'm going to change the size of my screen here. So the assessment task I've given you, the animation needs to be handed in by 1280 by 720. So if I left click my screen, go over to properties up here, and then size, I'll left click that, right, 1280, left click over here, 720. Okay, so now my page is 1280 by 720. Click Z, hold Option, I can zoom out, click and drag to see the selection I want to be using today. Alright, so now I need to grab my images. So I'll go up to File, Import to the library, my desktop, my 4 images, so I'll grab all 4 of them. So I can hold Shift and highlight all of them, open the images. Okay, now if I go to my library, all my images are there. Cool. So first of all, I want to create my character. So I'm going to use this picture of John Jones, one of the Ultimate Fighters. I just click and drag and bring it onto my screen. There it is there. So I click V, which is also my selection tool. I've got an image of him there. So I'll use that as my template to create my character. So I'll double click up here. Just write template. Now it's called template. I'll lock that so I don't move it around. Create a new layer by clicking new layer. Alright, so now I'm roughly going to draw, just roughly, leave that off. Okay, so what do I need? I need a head. So I draw it. Cool, with a red pencil, looks beautiful. Now the fill color, I can press I, and I'll get the eyedropper tool. Alright, so I click what color roughly I want him. Nice brown color, beautiful. Looks amazing. So left click, highlight all that, press F8, turn it into a symbol, call it head, make sure it's a graphic, click OK. Cool, now I have head symbol in my library. Beautiful, amazing. So now I can go ahead and create all the different elements I need. So I'll press Y for the pencil tool. I'll draw his neck, just roughly how I need it. Alright, K is my paint tool. Click in there, now I have his neck as well. So V again. So you notice down here, whenever I'm hitting something on the keyboard, it'll appear. So that's V. And press Y, turns it to the pencil. V again, so my selection tool, highlight, click. Now I don't want to select that, so I'll get rid of that by holding Shift and left click. So F8, call it neck, it's a graphic, okay, and that appears in my library again. So I'll be going at a pretty fast pace, so if you miss anything you can always rewind and go back. Okay, what else do I need? Let's see. Alright, so Y again. Draw his chest, just roughly. Looks amazing. Okay, color it in. Back to V. Double click it. So I double left click and it highlights everything. If I just click it once, it only highlights the fill color. See, notice it hasn't highlighted the red. So if I double click it, it highlights the fill color and it highlights the stroke. So then F8, we'll call this chest. It's a graphic again. Okay, beautiful. What do I need next? Okay, Y for the pencil tool. So I'll get his belly. Now notice how I'm making all these symbols so they overlap each other, because you don't want any gaps. So I've drawn it all the way through there. So, okay, paint it, click in the middle, V for my selection tool, double click with the left click, F8, call this belly. Alright, now let's get a belly. Beautiful, looks amazing. So I'll keep doing. Now you can choose, you can decide whether or not you want to create different symbols for, say, the shoulder, and then this part of the arm, and the forearm, and the hand. But I wouldn't go crazy. So I'm just going to select what I need right now. Okay, K again. Select in there. Notice how it won't fill in. This can be because the line I've created doesn't connect all the way around. Now, so you'll notice up here, so I've got my paint bucket tool selected. Now down here, my gap size. So right now, it says don't close gaps. So I want to change it perhaps to close medium gaps. Now let's see if that works. Cool, and now it's filled it in. So I'll go selection tool, double left click, so I'll highlight all of it. F8 to convert to symbol. Now I'll call this upper arm. Upper arm. Now you guys can call all these symbols anything you want, just make sure you call it something so you remember what it is. Okay. Press OK. Done. Now continue to draw. Alrighty, so now I got his arm. Look it up, K again to fill it. Filled it in, beautiful. Alright, what's next? Maybe his hand. Alright. So his hand, I'm just going to draw a rough shape for his hand. I'm not going to focus too much on detail. So just around where his glove is. Now because it's hand, because his glove is black, I might change the color. So if I press I get my eye drop tool and I can select what color I want. So I'll go roughly in there. So you notice the color's changed in there. It's a bit dark for me, so I might go to a lighter gray. Something like that. Off Big John McCarthy's t-shirt. Select it. V for my selection tool. Double click with my left click. I've highlighted all that area. You see what I've done there. So if I undo, because I forgot to change this to a symbol, so if I undo with Command Z, and I can just keep holding Command and tapping Z, and it'll keep going back, back, back. Okay. So now I'll go back to here. So my tool there, click that, paint bucket, select. Okay, now V, so what I forgot to do is change that into a symbol, so double left click that, F8. The other one's called upper arm, so I'll call this lower arm. Lower arm, yeah. Graphic, okay. Perfect, Amondo. Now I can do the glove. Alright, Y, pencil tool, draw around it. I, select the gray, John McCarthy's back, click in there, now I've got my hand. Now remember, I can always change the symbol later. So I'm not too worried about detail right now. So double click that, F8, call it hand, if I could spell, hand. Okay, cool. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we got all these different elements of his body. What else do we need? Alright, his shorts. So I'm just going to draw it roughly. So again, Y for the pencil tool. I'm just going to draw something like that. Cool. Eyedrop tool. Black. Yeah, black's alright, I guess. Alright. Cool. Looks beautiful. Again, V. Double click with the left. F8. I'll call this shorts. Okay, cool. Y again for the pencil tool, draw a rough leg. something like that. So I want to draw it just in case it comes out of the shorts. Sometimes you need to make it that size, a certain size so it overlaps. I don't want to just draw this part here, because as soon as I start animating, when he starts moving his legs around, you just have a little knee wobbling around. So you're going to make sure you draw these selections from roughly where you think it's going to hit his hip, and then back around. Again, I'll fill it in. So I don't want to fill it in the same color as his shorts as it is up here. So I press the I tool, select what color I want it. So I might even do it a bit darker, just because it's legs. All right, cool. Let's select that, and now he's got a nice leg. Alrighty. So again, Y, draw the rest of his leg. Something like that. It's a bit off, but not going to bother me too much. So you want to draw it all the way down to his heel and all the way to the top of his knee. Again, I fill it in, so the same color as the top of his leg. You remember what I've done now. I haven't changed that into a symbol, so I can undo. Cool. Double click, F8, leg, upper, up here. Alrighty. Bottom of his leg, so top of the knee, down to the bottom of the heel. Color it in. V, double click, F8, leg, lower. Alright, one last one. I'll put his foot in there. Now, I can't really see that foot properly because it's on a funny angle, but this one I can see quite well, so I'm going to copy this one instead. So all the way to the back of the heel, to the tip of the toes, just nice and rough. Color it in. Alrighty. Now we got John Jones. Now notice I've only done one half of his body because I can just use all the elements on the right hand side of his body and I can apply it to the left hand side. So that is not a problem right now. Okay. So now I've got all the symbols I need and it's saved them all in my library. Groovy. Alright, so now we need to adjust the pivot points, because notice right now the pivot points are all in the center of all my symbols. That's the default setting. It automatically sets it into the middle. So if I just press Q, which is also the free transformation tool, so if I just press Q, I can then alter where I want to move that pivot point. Now for the bottom half of his body, I'd probably say the pivot point would be somewhere towards the pelvis, so I'd put it down there. Then I left click another symbol, so his chest, I'd say the pivot point would be somewhere at the bottom of the ribs. And I can do so with everything. The neck, I'd say it's down the bottom of the neck. So if it was to twist, it'd still be connected to the body. So I'll do that. With the head, I'd put it more towards the chin. With his shoulder, put it up here. Pivot right where it hits the chest. This part of his arm, the pivot point roughly where his elbow is, and so forth. His hand, pivot point where his wrist is, leg, pivot point where his hip is, his calf, pivot point where his knee is, and his foot, which it looks to me as if I have not created into a symbol yet, which is easily fixed. So V, double click it with the left, F8, foot. Even a genius can make a mistake. Alright, cool. Now we got a foot. So then I'll change the pivot point again. So Q, left click the pivot point, and move it to the heel, roughly. Or the ankle. Okay. Cool. Now I think I've got all my selections. Pivot point for his shorts, I imagine would be roughly just where his belly button is. Okay, so now I can double check that I am happy with all the pivot points. Because you don't want to have to move the pivot points later because it's going to alter your animation and it's all going to go haywire. So it's important to select where you want your pivot points before you start animating. I'm pretty happy with all those pivot points. No worries. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to put all these different symbols on different layers, because if I have them on one layer, all my motion tweens are all going to get really confusing. So right now I can hide my template, left clicking in that. So now I've got just my weird looking John Jones figurine. And the way I would do it, there's a million different ways you can do it, but the way I would do it, so I click the symbol. So I'm on V, which is a selection tool. So I click the symbol I want to move. I do Command C for copy. And then I delete it. Create a new layer. Double click. Call this one head. Make sure I'm on that layer. And then if I do Shift Command V, it'll paste it exactly where I removed it from. If I undo that, if I just do Command V, it's going to paste it in just some random default section, so you don't want that to happen. You want to do Shift Command V, and it'll paste it exactly where you need it. So now I've got my head. Lock that, so I don't get confused. Alright, so now the neck. So I'll select the neck. Now you can see there's a little blue border around it. So I've selected my neck. Again, Command C to copy it. I delete it, pressing the delete button. Create a new layer, double click, and call that one neck. That should already be set up for me. So make sure I select the keyframe of the layer I want, and again, Shift Command V, and it'll paste it exactly where I need it. So now I'm going to go through and do that for all of them. Alright, and I always lock a layer if I don't want to alter it, otherwise you end up moving things around. So again, select the chest, Command C, copy, delete it, create a new layer, double click. I think this one was chest. Make sure I'm on the keyframe, Shift Command V, will paste exactly where I need it. Lock the layer, and so forth. It seems like a lengthy process, but it will pay off in the end. The more time you take now labeling everything and putting on the right layer, the less time it will take to animate. Alright, so click my belly, copy the belly, delete it, create a new layer, double click, belly. Make sure I'm on the frame, Shift Command V will paste it, and we're all good to go. Alright, so I'll just keep going through shorts, copy it, delete it. Mouse is going crazy. Create a new layer. So you can see here I've created a new layer, but I can't see all my layers. So if I just sneak the mouse up to here, you'll notice it turns into one of these. I can left click it and drag it, and now I can view more of my timeline. Now what was I up to? Alright, double click, shorts, shorts, beautiful. Make sure I'm on the frame, Shift Command V, and then I'll paste the shorts. Lock the frame, lock the layer, sorry. Alright, cool, now we'll do his knee. So copy it, delete it, add a new layer, call this leg upper. And now what we'll start doing, we'll call this leg upper L, because we're going to make his right leg as well. So this will be his left leg, just so we don't get confused. So leg upper L, make sure I've selected frame, Shift Command V, and paste exactly where I need it. Now I want to move everything, move where I view it, so spacebar, and it turns into a little hand. I can grab things with my left click and I can move it around that way. It's a lot easier to navigate around your page that way. Alright, so space, and that's spacebar there. It doesn't look like it, but that's what spacebar looks like. Alright, so now I'm going to keep continuing on. Lock the frame. Alright, lower leg, cool, beautiful. Command C to copy it, delete it, create a new layer, double click, call this leg lower L, beautiful. Shift Command V for paste. That's what Shift Command V looks like, by the way. Alright, now it's all pasted there, looks amazing. And my foot. Now foot, it should be, yep, same again. So Command C to copy it, delete it, new, call that foot, and what will we call it? That's all his left leg, so that's left foot. Alright, beautiful. Click the frame, Shift Command V, paste the frame. Now I get the symbol there. Okay, cool. So now do his upper body as well. As you can see, I'm building quite the archive in my timeline, but that is all cool. So select the upper arm, copy it, delete it, add a layer, double left click, and I'll call this arm upper, and that's his left arm. Beautiful. So make sure I'm in the frame. Shift Command V, paste it back where it needs to be. Lock what I don't need. Lower arm. Okay, so copy it, delete it, add a new layer, double left click. What are we going to call this? Arm something something. Arm lower L. Perfectamundo. Make sure I'm on the frame. Shift Command V, and it'll paste it. Cool, looking good. Now my hand, it's already on its own layer by itself. But just to be safe, I'll copy it anyway, because there might be little bits of art somewhere behind this that I don't want to continue animating. So to make sure there is nothing lingering, I will put this in its own layer. So copy again, delete it, double click, call it hand L, select the frame, Shift Command V, and that'll paste it. All right, cool. Now I've got all that, and I can delete my original layer just in case it had some crapola on it I didn't want. So you can press the little trash can there, or you can right click and you can delete the layer. Trash can will do it for me. Alrighty, so now I've got all that. Look pretty groovy. John Jones, you beautiful man, you. Okay, what do we need now? Okay, so we need the other half of his body. Should be easy enough. So leg upper, so I left click it, hold shift, left click, foot L. Now I've highlighted all those layers. If I right click, I can duplicate layers. Cha-cha. Cool. So now it doesn't look like it's done anything because it's lined it up exactly where it was. But if I unlock the copies, you'll notice I can left click and drag. I can highlight that area, and I've done his legs. Oh, of course, I knew that. And his legs, okay. And then I can move them. Cool. Hey, look at that. I like it. Okay, but so to avoid any confusion, I'll double click with my left, and I'll write R there, because he's right, and same again. Okay, cool. Now he's got the right hand side. Now I need to do the same with the arms, so I'll lock those layers to make sure I don't alter them. I need to look at the timeline a bit more, so I can click and drag. Okay, where are his arms? So left click, hold shift, left click to where I want to highlight, so I've got all those three highlighted. Right click and duplicate layers. Perfectamundo. Again, it's underneath, so I can unlock it. Click, left click and drag to select them. Hey, 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 look at that. Groovy. So to avoid confusion, again, double left click. So I can change the name. Right clicking, yeah. Alrighty, groovy. Now it's on a funny angle, but that's cool. So if I want to pivot, I Q for free transformation tool. Now when my little arrow turns into little circular arrow thingamajiggy, I can just drag and move it so I can put it roughly where I need it. Alrighty, cool. John Jones is starting to look cool. Alrighty, so roughly like that. Okay, looks a bit funny, but that's cool. Alrighty then. So I'm pretty happy with that. Cool, created my little character. Okay. Now I have someone I can animate, which is cool, and I can always alter it later. Now if I want to alter any of the symbols, first I have to unlock it. So say if I want to alter the head, I need to unlock that frame. Now what I can do, I can click the symbol, and if I double click it with my left click, it'll open inside that symbol. So any alteration I make in here will alter it in your actual animation. So again, double click. Now if I want, I can draw a mustache on him, because mustaches can be cool. I like it. What a good looking chap. Alrighty. He's like, what? I'm confused. Yes, you are confused. Okay, so if I click back in scene, I'll go back in my scene, and now John Jones has a mustache. Beautiful. Okay, now we're gonna do our pose-to-pose animations. Alrighty, let's see what we got here. Okay, so what do I need? What do I need? I need my poses. Okay, so got my Spider-Man pose. So before I bring it in, I'll create a new layer for him. So I'll call this one my references. So these are just my reference images. Now I'll make sure I put them on the bottom of my timeline. Left click, drag it, let go, and now it's on the bottom. Okay, so I'll start with Spider-Man. So I can just click, left click and drag him, and he appears. Now, whoa, he's pretty big. I want him a little bit smaller than that, I reckon. So again, Q for your free transformation tool. Now, when I click with left click, if I hold shift, it won't alter the dimensions of him. It'll make him bigger or smaller. But if I was not to hold shift when doing that, it's going to distort him, and that's not what I want, because he could be super fat or super skinny. So if I undo that, okay, so this time left click, hold shift, and then I can alter it. So I'm going to make him roughly the size of this guy. Seems pretty good. I think his arms are roughly the same size, his legs are roughly the same size. Head's a little bit bigger, but that's okay. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. Make it a little bit smaller. Okay, cool. Alrighty, Spidey. Alright, cool. So I've got him on that frame. Now, because it's just my references, it's not a big deal if I put my other references on the same layer. So I'll put roughly, so in the next shot I want him to land. So that's an image there. So I'll go maybe give him 30 frames to land. So I left click it once, and then if I press F6, it'll copy this initial frame, and then I can drag the picture of the girl. So left click and drag. Okay, she's pretty big as well, so I'll shrink the size of that. So Q, my free transformation tool. Left click, hold shift, make her roughly the same size as Spidey. Cool, not bad. Alright, put it roughly where I need to land. Okay, cool. Now if I go back and forth, you notice I can go back and forth with full stop and apostrophe. So that's altering where I am in the timeline. So on that frame she appears, and on that frame Spidey's there. So I can delete Spidey from this frame because I don't need him there. So it's like spacebar, I can move it. Okay, so if I go back and forth, you'll notice. Alright, cool. Cool, and then to my two keys, so I can animate my character from that one to that one. This will be good, I like it. What will I have in the middle? Maybe I'll have a breakdown. So if you remember, we were talking about breakdowns, so that's the passing position of the two keys. So there's one key there, and then your next key is on the ground, but the passing position is going to make sure it's got an arc. Okay, so again, click roughly where I think the passing position might be. F6 to insert new keyframe. I'll bring in, what have I got? John Jones. Hey, alright. More John Jones, cool. He's a bit bigger than Spidey, so I'll shrink him down. It's pretty good. Yeah, looks pretty good. It's him fly kicking Ryan Bader in the head. I like it. Alright, so that's my passing position. Now Spidey's still there, so I can get rid of Spidey on that frame. So left click and just press delete. Whoa, easy. So So I'll click off it first. Alright, left click. Alright, delete. Okay. So now I've got Spidey, which is my first keyframe. Then it goes to John Jones, which is the breakdown. And then it ends with the girl crouching in the middle. So it's going to go, Pachoo! Shibajang! Alright, I like it. Alright, cool. I like that so far. Looks pretty good. So I can lock that because I won't alter it because I'm pretty happy with that. Alright, let's see what we got. So there's our mustache man dude. It looks pretty big actually, but I think it'll be okay. Alright, so what are we going to do? So we make sure that layer is locked so we don't alter Spidey and all his buddies. And now the man, we need to unlock. What was the template? It's the template. So we can unlock, so if you left click on the lock and just drag the mouse up, it'll unlock them all as so. So now we can alter all these symbols that we have created. So the way I'm going to do it, I'll probably start at his head. Put his head roughly where Spidey's head is. Oh yeah. Spidey mustache man, head man. Looks good. So you notice I can just left click and drag it, and it's going to alter where I am in the timeline. So that'll do all the work for me. So again, left click, alter, and I'll make sure when I left click, I don't accidentally grab the pivot point because that's going to alter everything and it's going to pivot from that point right there, which is not what I want. So I'll undo that. Put it back where it was. Okay, so left click, what I want to move, put his neck roughly where his neck is. Now if I want to be a little bit more accurate, I can use the D-pad. So I can tap it around. Cool, looks good. Move his chest just with left click. Ooh, it's a bit bigger. Alright, that's alright. So I can pivot it a little bit. Hey, look at that. Looking good. Put his belly. So I might line up this pivot point roughly where I think his belly button is, sort of. And then I can pivot this around. Now it's important to pivot around because if I undo that, if I just sit it up like that, when I animate it, it's not going to look right. So you're going to make sure you line it up so all the pivot points are in the right area. Okay, it doesn't look too bad. So now arm upper right, cool. So I can pivot it. So roughly it goes where his right arm is. Now notice this is going to overlap in funny positions, but that is cool. Because we're all professionals, we can work with it. So it's a bit of guesswork, but that is cool too. So I can kind of alter it around. Alrighty. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad, it's alright. So you get a feel for it. Again, left click, put the pivot point where it needs to be. Might pivot it around. Alright. Cool, I like it. How are we doing for time? I gotta go get my washing soon. Alright, we're doing alright, okay. Cool, so again, proportion's a bit out of whack. It's because there's a bit of perspective, so I'm just gonna wing it and guess what his arm's doing. I'll make it a little bit bendy, or maybe a little bit out of there. No, it's a bit crazy. Alright, cool, pivot point, that one's going in there. Cool, looks a bit like a monkey man, alright. Again, put the pivot point roughly where I need it, on his belly button. Okay. So obviously the character I've created is a bit bigger than Spidey, but that is cool, I can deal with that. Because what I can do, if I press Z, I get my magnifying glass, then I hold Option and left click, I can zoom out. Now what I can do is, because I've got these two layers locked, I can left click and drag, select it all, press Q, and I can transform it, make it a little bit smaller. Pretty cool, huh? And then I'm just gonna left click with all of them highlighted. I'll left click it, move it up, and bada bing, bada boom. Now it's a better size, better fit. Now notice I've done that while it's still all just in frame 1, because if I'm to do it continuously, then you'll alter sizes and you'll get bigger and smaller at different parts of your timeline, which is not what you want. So you want to make sure that all these changes you make before you start animating. It's okay to change what it looks like visually inside the symbol, and you can even change the sizes in there. But for now, keep it real. So I'll zoom in. Okay, what are we looking at? So it doesn't look too bad. I might just move that hand a bit. Your pivot point, so Q. Alrighty. And I'll put some legs there, because most people have legs. Alright, cool. And again, it's a bit stretchy. I'll move that torso out a bit. And what do we got? This leg there. Oh yeah, cool. Kind of matches up. So I don't know if John Jones was the best person to pick because he is very elongated. He's looks a bit like me actually. Alright. Cool. So there's right, now there's left. Alrighty. Something like that. I might even have it like that. Now notice his foot is facing the wrong way. So that is not good. So one way around that, if you go up to foot, so I can right click it, I can duplicate that. So we'll call this, yeah, leave it foot copy. Cool, now I've got two symbols. So I'll double click, left click, go into the foot symbol. Now it's as simple as going up to modify, transform, flip vertically. Oh, wrong way. Alright, undo. So modify, transform, flip horizontally, and it's flipped, and now it's facing the other way. So that's only done it to foot copy. So foot is the original way, and then because we've made a duplicate of a symbol, it's become foot copy, and we've gone the other way. So now we go back into our scene. Okay, so now it's still foot, the original foot, because we've only created foot copy in our library. We haven't actually brought it out onto our stage. So what I can do is I can right click that symbol. I can do swap symbol. Go to foot copy. So you can see there, so I've left clicked it. Okay, cool. Now it faces the other way. Easy as that. So the pivot point's a bit crazy. So I can alter that by pressing Q. Select the pivot point, put it roughly where his ankle is. Alright, now I'm happy with that. Alright. So put it roughly where Spidey's foot is. So keep in mind, Spidey's not going to be in the final product. This is just as a template, as a guide, so we can see that everything makes sense. So it's a little bit of mucking around, a little bit of fiddling. It seems like a lengthy process at the start, but then it'll make the end animation a lot quicker and a lot smoother. Okay, I'm happy with that. Cool. So now in the first frame, we've got him, our John Jones character with the mustache, in the same pose as Spider-Man. So that's your key. Okay, or your extreme. So now we'll go to our next extreme. So the way we'll do that, so we left click, so we're in frame 30, that's where our picture of the girl and the next key is. So we can go left click at the top, so it highlights it there. I can hold shift, and left click down at the bottom, and if I'm to press F6, it'll copy all these frames and place them here, which is beautiful. Now if I alter any of these frames in here, in number 30 on my timeline, if I was to alter this, say if I was to move it, and I go back one frame, he's not altered there. So anything I alter where all these keyframes here isn't going to alter these keyframes here. So you always got to know wherever this red line is, they're the keyframes more likely than not that you'll be altering. Alrighty, cool. Cool. Okay, so I'll make sure I'm on frame 30. Where my next key is of this young girl here, and I'll pretty much do the same thing I just did before. So I'll slightly move everything. So I'll move the head. Her head seems to be on roughly the same angle. That's cool. And the neck's a bit further back. So put it back, maybe twist it in like that. That's kind of cool. Doesn't have to be exactamundo. Yeah, pretty accurate, not bad at all. Okay, so this is where I'll need to start pivoting stuff. So put it roughly where I think a belly button is, and I can alter that. Cool. And the shorts again, roughly where the belly button is. So the pivot point's roughly where a belly button is, and then select it and pivot it around. Cool. No worries. And what do I do next? The legs, cool. So make sure when you're moving them that the left leg in this frame is still the left leg in this frame. Because if you start swapping legs around, then it will start crossing over in your animation. You don't want that to happen. So I'll make sure left leg, so John Jones's left leg, which is this one. So it's on the left hand side of his body. Is also her left leg, which is cool. Alright, sweet. So I'll put it roughly with pivot point where her hip is. Now these legs are crazy longer than hers, but that's cool. So again, left click to move my objects. You can always alter it. You don't have to do it exactly like the photo is. Like I might even move half this up a little bit. Cool. So just get it roughly where you need it. And the foot, so I might make that a bit more flat, like a frog. Boing, boing. Alright, cool. Oh. So just slowly modifying it. Alright, cool. And again, modifying it. Cool, and then put the arms in, so make sure again, the arms. Okay, now so you notice here that my arms are behind my leg. That's an easy thing to fix. So if I let go, okay, so it's right there. That's all to do with the timeline. So I can highlight, I'm gonna want all my arms in front of my legs, I reckon. So I can highlight all the hands and the arms. So I left click, hold shift, left click to highlight all the layers that I want to alter. So you can see here it's highlighted them all. And it's as simple as left clicking, dragging it up, and I'm going to put it in front of the chest and the belly as well. And I'll probably put it in front of the neck and in front of the head. Okay, cool. So now all these layers, you can see it's on top of the leg. So if I move it around, it's on top of everything. Alrighty. So put it roughly where the arms are. So her arms are facing down there. Now, if you wanted to get a better look at the photo, you can always select the view tool, so you don't have to look at everything. So if I wanted to hide, say, his belly and his chest, I just select these and the shorts, and now I can see her arms. So it could be all easy. It doesn't mean I've deleted them. Doesn't mean they're going anywhere. It just means I can't see them. Take note, just because I can't see them doesn't mean I can't. I can still alter them. So, so bring that in. It's kind of a straight arm. Cool. And then the hand. So pivot point. And then alter the hand. Cool. Oh, I've gone into the symbol. See what I did there? I accidentally double clicked it, so I go back into the scene. I'll move some of the timeline because I'm losing track of everything. Alright, cool. Now it seems kind of confusing because we got so many layers, but it's gonna make your life a whole lot easier. Alright, cool. I like it. So the torso, and it can bring, so we can view it again. So I just left click them. Okay, so now we got our character. Cool. Alrighty. So what I can do, I'll hide the references for now. So all we can see is the character I've created. And so it goes, if I go back and forth in the timeline, it goes from that pose to that pose. So pose to pose. So we want it to go from there to there, from there to there. Okay, cool. Should be easy enough. Yes, I agree. It should be easy enough. Okay, so make sure I can view all of my timeline. So yep, there's nothing hidden. So I left click on the first frame, hold shift, and then I left click. So I highlight this entire section. Now if I just right click, go to create classic tween, not motion tween, make sure it's create classic tween. And now you'll notice my character is sort of jumping, sort of, in animation land. So it ain't real smooth. I mean, it's doing roughly what I told it to do. The reason it's just going from straight from point A to point B is because I haven't put a breakdown, also known as a passing position, in. So that's where our little friend John Jones comes in with his karate kick. Jabang! Alrighty, cool. So I'll make sure I'm lined up. Now what I want to do, because I want to create a new keyframe along this line, because if I start altering things here, it's going to get confusing. So I left click up the top, hold shift, left click again, and I've selected just all that section in there on frame 15. And press F6, and that'll insert a bunch of keyframes. Alright, so now I'll line them up. So roughly where his face is, looks pretty good. His neck, change the angle a bit. Cool, looking pretty cool. His chest. Now his chest is kind of on a funny angle. I'd say the pivot point would be roughly there, and so I would have to pivot it out, like something like that. Very good. Okay, cool. Arm there. So I'm just gonna roughly guess it. Now again, make sure the left side of his body is still the left side of his body. Cool, looking good. Just put roughly where his belly button is, I reckon. The pivot point, and then pivot it around. Looks good. Belly button again. Pivot that around for his shorts. Looking cool. Now I'm getting a bit confused with all these limbs flying around everywhere, but that's his left arm there. Okay. Cool. And this arm there. Cool. Doesn't look too bad. Now you notice here that his left arm is going over his face. Now I don't know how you guys do flying kicks, but I usually don't dislocate my shoulder into my mouth. So I'm going to make an executive decision to have his left arm behind his body in the whole animation. So I go, luckily I've labeled them all so it's not confusing. So I left click, arm upper L, hold shift, left click again, so I've selected all those three. Now I'm moving all the layers, I'm not just moving individual keyframes, I'm moving everything in here. I'm going to left click and drag it, and I'm going to drag it down to behind shorts. It's an executive decision I made. Alrighty, groovy. Cool, now continue to move everything, so his leg, the superpowered kick, remember where his knee is, it's very important. Okay, hey, cool. And then that lays in there, you can kick him, bang. Alright, cool. That's roughly where his hip is, pivot that out. Roughly where his knee is, pivot that back. Now the reason it's all different lengths is because the photo is in a perspective and we're not doing perspectives right now. Alright, cool. But it doesn't look too bad. His leg's a bit, I'm going to bend it up so it's more like Bruce Lee. Alright, cool, I dig it. Alright, cool, so there's our breakdown. So we got our breakdown here. Now if I drag it across the timeline, it goes to our key, which is here. So one of our extremes. And then over here, whoa, see what happened there? Boo! So his legs are going all crazy. But that's alright, we can fix that. In animation land. That's right, in animation land. Alright, so don't want to view my references anymore. Groovy. Alrighty then. So you notice it's all a bit, what is going on? I agree. but it's getting there. We're getting some cool things happening. All right, cool. So you get to a point where you think it's going a bit crazy, like there. It's going a bit crazy. Okay, so how are we going to fix that, you ask? Well, good question. Okay, so what we do, we'll roughly go where I think it's a bit crazy. So take note of where his knee is in this part of his leg. So we say what is going on there. So one way I do it, I mean, you can muck around in the timeline trying to figure out what layer is doing what, but if you left click an object, drag it, and you'll see here on your timeline, I'll just move here, it's actually created a keyframe for me. So I'll just undo that and I'll show you again. So undo, so it's gone away. So if I left click it, oh, bye bye.